Now, Nigeria has a fairly long history of state pardon for persons, and following a recent meeting of the country's Council of State, former governor of Plateau State, Joshua Dariye, and former governor of Taraba State were granted state pardon by President Muhammadu Buhari along with 157 other convicts. They were accused of looting public funds and were pardoned on age and health grounds. Many Nigerians have been reacting to what they call a controversial pardon and a big hit to the anti-corruption crusade. Let's talk this through by speaking with strategy consultant Dariye, who is in the studio with me. It's good to see you.
Good morning.
Yeah. So we've also got lawyer and human rights activist via Zoom, Inibe Efyong. It's good to see you again this morning.
Good morning, thank you.
Let me start with you. How did you receive this news when it first broke? What was the impression that you got?
I was not astonished. I was not surprised because this president has consistently shown that keeping to his promises in terms of the fight against corruption means nothing to him. In the first place, I do not understand why Nigeria should be assaulted by this kind of development. So I received the news with sadness. It is regrettable. It is something that the president shouldn't have considered, let alone take decision in that regard. I do not see it as being in the national interest. The governors or the former governors who were pardoned, it took over 10 years to prosecute them. And these are people whose conviction has been affirmed by the highest court of the land. So it is a ridicule of the process. It makes nonsense of the entire fight against corruption. When you now say you are pardoning people, as a matter of fact, the most high-profile conviction in the history of the anti-corruption fight, that you had two former governors convicted in Nigeria. So, and you have the president saying you are granting them pardon. On what basis? There is no basis for granting them pardon. If it is on health grounds, then all prisoners, all criminals who are in custody across the country and are suffering from one health condition or the other should also be granted pardon by the president. So there is clearly no basis in law, there is clearly no basis in morality for the president to pardon these people. But let me also say clearly that the power of prerogative of mercy under section 175 of the Constitution is exclusive to the president. It does not exercise it in conjunction with any person. It is only required to consult with the Council of State, because there is some misinformation that, oh, it is not the president, it is the Council of State. It is only required to consult, not to seek approval. Consultation is basically to inform. That is all that the president is required to do. So this should never have happened. I feel that it is also a way of demoralizing the work that EFCC is doing, whatever little effort they are doing in the fight against corruption. Because what is the message at the end of it that the president is sending? You are saying that it is pointless, it is worthless to undertake risky investigation and have these people put on trial for over 10 years, and then it translates to nothing. You just release them back to the society. So it is not in the interest of the country, right. And it is really, really unfortunate.
Right, let me bring it back to the studio here. Dariye, it's Governor Samuel Otom sees it differently. He felt that, appreciating the president, he felt that the ex-convicts, so to speak now, must have learned the lessons, and that's one of the reasons why they could be granted the state pardon, the presidential pardon. Do you see it this way as well?
No, I don't, because he's saying they've learned their lessons. By what metric has he been able to measure that? Because we need to be very sincere about whatever it is we're doing. We can't say that we're fighting corruption on one hand, and on the other hand, we're pardoning convicted folks, like you said, the highest in the land so far. And we also need to understand that aside from the monetary waste, as it is, that has gone into it, because it would cost a lot of money. So it cost a lot of money to have these people prosecuted, eventually have to get a conviction, secure a conviction in the courts. A lot of appeals, a lot of hearings, and all of that costing the government money. The financial implications aside, we need to also understand that when you set such a precedent, you signal to society that it is okay to go about doing certain things in certain ways, in any way. Also saying that when you're connected at certain levels, that even if you do get to be convicted of certain crimes, that when you are well connected, you are very much likely to come out of it, which is a culture that we have been seeing in our society even before the pardon. and which is what we have been complaining about the swift erosion of our value system. Because a lot of ills are in the society today, and we're wondering where they're coming from. But either you like it or not, a lot of people are looking at persons like the president, the people in different places of authority, as people who know better, as people who set examples. It is just a basic human nature. It has nothing to do with being a Nigerian. So the president and the people we have in leadership today need to understand that whatever it is we're doing today has a huge implication as to how society is being charted for us. So the question now is this how we want to keep going when we keep complaining every day that corruption is killing Nigeria, corruption is killing Nigerians? And then we have 2 former governors who got convicted of financial crimes, now set loose in the society, saying that for health reasons or whatever reasons, which for me, they are not very valid.
All right. Inibe, one thing one of the senior advocates of Nigeria, Femi Falana, said was that this will only encourage more politicians to steal public funds. And then we've got petty thieves, somebody stealing 1,000 naira, being incarcerated and all that. You've been in the court of law, argued a lot of cases and still arguing cases. Do you think the law is for the connected and not for the man on the street?
Absolutely. That is the message that the president is sending. I mean, what other message? Because if you look at the criminal justice system, it is specifically targeted at the poor. It is only those who are not privileged, those who are not financially buoyant. Those are the persons that you see police arrest. Go and look at police cells across the country. It is the poor and vulnerable that are kept there. Look at all the law enforcement agencies, from NDLEA to Federal Road Safety to immigration to civil defense, all of them. When you look at the way they operate, they are targeted at the underprivileged. It is very hard in this country to have influential people, politically exposed persons, prosecuted or brought within the confines of the criminal justice system. In fact, even the EFCC now is no longer fighting corruption. They are only targeting Yahoo boys. They have and recall that the president himself had, whether seriously or jovially, said EFCC should not target, politicians. So EFCC no longer prosecute high-profile political corruption cases. Even the cases that they had in court, if you have followed EFCC's conviction cases in court lately, they have lost most of their high-profile cases in recent times. So when you now have these 2 cases that they had succeeded in securing conviction and affirmed by the highest court of the land, and the president, simply because he had the constitutional power, because this argument that, the Constitution empowers him. The Constitution empowers him to do everything. So many things, but is it expedient? Is it in the national interest? Is it morally upright? Is it in the right message? What will it translate to? So before you exercise a power that is vested in you by the Constitution, you have to look at it and ask yourself, will it be in the interest of the country? While this is unforgivable, is that this is a president who came to power specifically on the mantra of fighting corruption. In 2015, the argument was that the Jonathan government was corrupt. When Jonathan granted this pardon to Alamese, there was a national outrage. Yeah. People were incandescent with rage. What is happening today? That president who rose to power on that platform of fighting corruption is now encouraging corruption by saying that 2 former governors should be released, despite stealing funds belonging to their states. So what do you expect 7 governors to do? What do you expect 7 governors to do? You are telling them you have license to steal. You are telling them that you have license to loot public resources. This is, for me, the final nail on the anti-corruption fight. Okay. It is as clear as that. So This should never have happened, as I said. The reality today is that the criminal justice system in this country does not favor the weak. It does not. No rich man is detained at the police station, except on very few cases. It is only the poor people that are targeted. It is only the poor people that are prosecuted. That is what is happening. And at the highest level of power, you now have the president telling you that EFCC, even if you prosecute and you secure conviction of one of us, we are going to set them free through presidential pardon. For me, what the president has done is an abuse of office. He's only supposed to exercise this power in the public interest. But what he has done is not in the interest of the country. It's not in the interest of the citizen of Plateau State,
right,
whose resources were stolen. It is not.
Right. In Dikwa, in 2013, Inibe made reference to Alamese when he was pardoned by former President Goodluck Jonathan. A lot of outrage. Even the current administration was saying, no, that shouldn't have been done. But then people said, critics said that he had served his term then, and then he had also learned his lesson. But then look at the Inyame and the other person that was actually pardoned by the Buhari administration. They said that these were people that didn't show that they were remorseful. They fought this case for, the EFCC prosecuted, they pursued this case for close to 10 years, bringing in witnesses from outside Nigeria and all that, so that this shouldn't have been done in the first place. So what would you say about this administration's stance against anti-corruption drive? They said they stand on three fulcrums: economy, security, and corruption. And we know that President Muhammadu Buhari said, no, he's a no-nonsense man. So has this put a lie to his stance, his toga against anti-corruption fight?
Well, this makes a whole nonsense of the entire mantra of being against corruption. Because we also need to know that to discourage bad behavior, there needs to be strong consequences to deter such behavior. Why we have the society we have today is because a lot of bad behaviors are not checked. So because there are no consequences for it, so why should we stop? It's not, I'll say again, it's not being Nigerian, it's only being human. If you have a child that misbehaves and then you do correct the child will keep doing the same thing. Eventually they'll end up doing worse. It's just basic human nature. Saying that they're still fighting anti-corruption, for me, as of today, I think it's now become very humorous because they're trying to draw parallels with the Alamesia case, and at the time in 2013 they were in the opposition, and there was a lot of rhetoric from that side of the aisle at the time before they came into office. Now they're in power and doing practically the same thing. So the question is, were we lied to in 2015? Were they very honest in 2015? Were there fundamental principles as at the time, or maybe we're just winging it as we go along? For me, I think it has huge consequences on society, and I think that it should never have been done under any circumstance, because it serves zero value to public good. Zero value. And we also need to understand that being in any position of leadership has huge consequences, either we like it or not, either we're aware of it or not. And the precedents we set, in the end, have a role to play in how society is changed. Today, they have been set free. This precedent has been set. In some years to come, some other president will try the same thing, and I'm afraid that we'll end up having the same conversation over and over again. But then when can we say that we're practicing responsible leadership that puts the value system and the sustainability of society ahead of whatever political favoritism or whatever it is that the overall underlying agenda is? We need to be very careful with how we do these things.
Inibe, Nigeria was rated 149th out of 180 most corrupt countries in the world, and the second most corrupt country in West Africa by Transparency International. What do acts like this portray of our country in the eyes of the global community?
It is a formal notification to the international community that corruption is an official policy of state. There is no former governor in Nigeria today that is serving a jail term on account of corruption. There is no former minister in Nigeria today that is serving a jail term on account of corruption. There is no former member of the National Assembly, whether the House of Reps or the Senate, that is serving a jail term on account of corruption. You can prove me wrong. I am not aware of any, not even one, that is serving jail term today on account of corruption. I am not aware. You had Ojusokadu, who was convicted, and then he was set free by the Supreme Court on technical grounds, even though I agree with the judgment, because the learned judge who tried him, Justice Mohammed Idris, had been elevated to the Court of Appeal. And at the time the conviction, the sentence was passed, he was no longer a justice of the Federal High Court. But the point I'm making is that all the politically exposed persons that have had one serious case or the other, they have either been set free by the court on technicality, or where they have been convicted, their conviction has been basically thrown away on account of the abusive exercise of presidential pardon. So what I'm saying in essence is that the international community can see clearly, the whole world can see clearly, that corruption remains a problem in this country, and that there is no government that is really fighting corruption. So you can only expect our rating in the corruption index, global corruption index, to be worse with this development, with this action, very offensive, very provocative action that the president has taken. Why was this decision taken? Why was it taken? Nobody should blame the Council of State. All that they could have done if there was any member who had reservation, was to protest. The Council of State cannot override the president. The president is only to consult. It's like somebody running for office and he comes to say, Inibere, I want to become president. He's only informing me. He's not seeking my approval. This is the decision that Buhari took on his own. And by taking the decision, the American government, the UK government, the Canadian government, the European Union, the entire international community can clearly see that this is not a government that is fighting corruption. This is a government that is encouraging corruption. This is a government that is emboldening the corrupt. Even beyond the question of pardoning criminals, how about perception? This government, we have seen people in this government, ministers who have been indicted, who have been immersed in one scandal or the other. They are protected, they are shielded. Look at the case of the former chief of staff. It took the president till eternity for the man to resign. Till today, what has become of his case? All the high-profile cases of corruption in this regime, none, not even one single one.
Inibere, let me quickly butt in. Sorry to jump in. I want you to, react to this very quickly because we're racing against time. There is an allegation laid, against your institution by the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, who said some time ago that the judiciary was to blame for the delay in high-profile corruption cases. Is that correct?
Well, with profound respect to the office of the Attorney General, what Malami said is absolute nonsense. And I said that without apology. Since Malami became the Attorney General, I challenge you to contradict me. He has not instituted a single, not even one case against any corrupt person in Nigeria. What he has done is to frustrate cases that the EFCC is prosecuting. Malami has not filed one, the office of the Attorney General of the Federation has not prosecuted one significant high-profile cases in the last 7 years. So what right does he have to accuse the judiciary?
Anyway, you may disagree with him, but you may not want to say that whatever is said is nonsense. It's actually, exercising its own opinion. Well, I'll come back to you. Let me bring it back to the studio, Dipo. Lots of questions are rioting in my head, and I'll try to put them to you. What was the yardstick used in pardoning these criminals? Why did it not include James Ibori, Lucky Benedon, Alamaisia posthumously, etc.? Why are the courts still trying other suspected looters if they would be pardoned later?
Well, in the end, today I'm glad I'm not a member of the judiciary because I think I would be very demoralized if I was still part of those cases trying to prosecute folks that have been alleged to loot public funds, and then you wake up one day and you see that certain folks have been pardoned. So the question I'll be asking myself is, so why did I wake up this morning to say I'm getting dressed, wearing my robe and my wig, going to court saying I'm prosecuting these guys, when it's very certain that maybe under a decade in my own lifetime, they'll still be released. So what's the whole point of the exercise? So for me, I think it will then look like an exercise in futility, but they must not be discouraged. They will still go about carrying out their enterprise and doing what they need to do as being a member of society, saying that, because in the end, when we don't get justice, certain things fall apart in society. A lot of things fall apart. Now, justice was served by them going to prison. They were convicted. Now you're saying, okay, the entire judiciary and the entire process, they probably didn't know what they were doing, or you're saying that they've learned their lessons on health grounds and all of that. But the money that was looted, how much of it was returned back into the public coffers? How many of it has been able to do any public good? How many schools have been built? How many hospitals have been built? How many lives have been improved? Because we need to understand that the issues like this have actual real life implication. So when we keep talking about corruption kills Nigerians and Nigeria, these are the things we talk about. Because you loot 100 million naira today or 1 billion naira today, that money should have been channeled into something of a public good to serve and to provide value to members of society, to people who are actual citizens of Nigeria. Today, these who haven't had that, and moving forward, you're saying that, okay, you know what, you may not have it, and these guys that have looted it, they can still go free. So in the end, where is the justice? Where is the justice? So where the society where justice is optional is a society that is quickly falling apart.
Anyway, I would like to take a final thought on this conversation. He asked a question, he posed a question, where is the justice? So how do we ensure that justice is served, and when it is served, it is pursued to the letter?
It's going to be difficult, really, because, like the guest in the studio has said, can you imagine the the embarrassment that the judge who handed down these sentences is going to face as a person. Can you imagine how officers who go to work in EFCC this morning will feel about cases that they're investigating currently? You cannot have justice when you do not have people in power in positions of leadership that believe in justice. Don't forget, James Ibori, a convicted criminal in UK, came back to this country and was received triumphantly as I speak. He's a major power broker in Delta State. Jolene Jame, who has just been set free by the president, and of course, Joshua Dariye, his counterpart. Once they are out, I believe their release could have already been processed. They will go back to their states, to Taraba and Plateau, and they will be trying to influence who will become governor in 2023. What sort of country are we? What sort of country are we? There has been no serious effort in this country to address the issue of corruption. Tragically, the man who came to power to say he was going to put an end to it is now giving lessons for people to steal. That is why I agree with Mr. Femi Falana who is saying that all criminals in Nigeria should be released. It doesn't make sense to allow petty thieves to remain in custody for years, and those who stole billions are being treated, with presidential privileges. This is what has happened.
Right.
So justice is not something that is taken seriously in this country, and that is very, very unfortunate.
Anyways, thank you very kindly. Strategy consultant Dipo Iwole in the studio, and via Zoom has been lawyer and public human rights activist Inibe Effiong. Thank you very kindly, gentlemen.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.